is episode 98 of Off Script with Trish Glose, intimate interviews and fun conversations with interesting people. Joining me via Skype today, I have my good buddy, Braden Hitt. Hi, Braden. A lot of people know you because you own a popular little spot in downtown Medford called Over Easy.
Yep.
Yeah, you just opened a brick and mortar store when? That was like last year?
In November of last year, yeah.
Yeah, and I would just say, welcome to owning brick and mortar. What better way of a welcome than a pandemic?
It wasn't hard enough just getting the thing built. And then, zombie apocalypse happens and, we didn't have that plan in our back pocket. So,
welcome to owning a restaurant. Now you have to shut down.
Yeah. Please close your doors for a month and a half.
Exactly. We're going to talk a little bit about, we're probably going to talk a lot about that because I'm just curious from your perspective. I do want to say first, though, you have been on this podcast before. In fact, you were episode number 3. You were episode number 3, and now you're episode number 98. Well, sadly, that episode 3, the video version of it is lost in space. I have no idea where it is. Can't find it.
I think it was because we shined too bright together. You know what I mean? Like,
too much.
The tape couldn't hold it.
Yeah. No, it was a really fun episode, and I'm really irritated that I don't have it archived anywhere. Like, really irritated. So I feel like this one's going to be bigger and better than episode number 3.
It's going to be explosive.
It is going to be explosive. So welcome back.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. This is going to be a little bit of a redo. So I'm going to ask you a few questions that I asked you way back in the day. I think that was like 2 years ago. Where are you from originally, Braden Hitt?
Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City. What was it like growing up in Oklahoma City?
It was, I was really lucky. Like, I lived in the big city of Oklahoma City. And so I was exposed to very kind of an integrated, population, whereas a lot of the other people from there, is still kind of separate. And back then, growing up, I was born in '73, and even into the early '80s and everything, there was still a lot of segregation and separation. And we went back last year in October. And I was really pleased with the way that kind of Oklahoma has kind of come around, and there's like a culture there, and arts are really picking up. Food's a real big thing now, and so growing up there was it seemed normal to me, but that's where you are though.
Well, and as you know, from South Carolina, so I completely understand that vibe, and I know exactly what you're saying. Did food play a big role in your life growing up in Oklahoma City?
Yeah. I mean, my mom, we were latchkey kids, and so my mom worked, all the time. And, so whenever she came home, she cooked stuff that was quick, but her mother and my dad's mother, they were phenomenal cooks. Like, we would spend every weekend either at one of the two grandma's houses eating a big family meal and help cooking. And, I still have recipes that for my grandma's, like chicken and noodles. And so like, it was a big part of our life. My grandmother, on my mom's side, their whole, basically their house, they lived in the suburbs of Oklahoma City, but they had almost an acre worth of garden that she grew all their vegetables, all their, strawberries. One of my favorite, memories is like sitting in the garden with my grandma and like eating strawberries she'd sit me down in the strawberry patch with a bowl of water, and she'd be over there picking, potatoes or whatever, and I'd just be mowing her strawberries that she grew. It was amazing.
Yeah, I have incredible memories of my grandma's garden. That was a big deal for her. And we did corn. Corn was a huge thing for us. And we would load up the back of a pickup truck with all this corn, and then you'd go to the house and you'd put it away, right? Because you have to like blanch it and then take it off the husk and then put it in freezer bags. And you had corn for the whole rest of your life.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Was there like a vegetable that she grew or your family grew that was like that? Was a big deal?
Um, she, excuse me. I remember she used to grow like four different varieties of potatoes. And what she did with those potatoes was pure magic. Like she used to make this like she would always make it for me. She made two different things for me that nobody really ate except for me.
Uh-huh.
And that was boiled okra that she would grow. And she would just boil okra with butter and salt and pepper in it. I mean, it's, if you've never eaten okra or know what okra does, it just slimes out.
It's snot.
And so it's a snotty mess. And so, but I loved it as a kid. It was, I don't know, today it would make me gag, but like back then that was the bee's knees back then. So, but then she made just a simple, they were dirt farmers. They lived in Oklahoma during the Dust Bowl and during Depression and everything. Actually, my grandfather and my uncle came to Medford to do logging back in the day to help support the family back in Oklahoma. I didn't know that until actually I moved here. And
That's
so that
crazy.
It's a cool little piece of history that I had no idea. And my aunt on my mom's side was saying that. I was like, yeah, that's where Dad and Freddie went to do logging back in the day to make a little extra cash.
That's crazy. I learned after moving to Oregon, no one in my family, I mean, most of my family is like, where is Oregon actually? Where does that place exist? But I learned my grandmother on my dad's side, she was born in Oregon. Like this is where she lived.
Oh, wow.
And so I had this
That's
weird,
really cool.
yeah, I had this weird connection with that. So that's really cool.
It was meant to be.
It totally meant to be. So one thing about Southern food that a lot of people don't understand, because I feel like in the last few years it's gotten really trendy. Do you think?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The whole fried chicken
Totally.
stuff.
Yeah.
It's peasant food, right? Like you said, it's like this poor farmer food.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of the times it was, there wasn't a lot of money and you had to pack on the calories because you're working in the fields and stuff. So you're eating heavily, butter and beef and, chicken, just heavy stuff to have sustenance, to pack your belly full, before you went out and worked all day.
Yeah. My mom told me a story. My great grandfather had his own smokehouse. So, so they would butcher a pig and then he would, take it apart himself and then he would smoke it. And then it would just hang in there for months and they'd go out, he'd cut what he needed and then they would bring it back in. And, turnips, my great grandmother would cook all parts of the turnip and they would use some sort of like smoked ham hock or something. And that was food for, 3 days.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's crazy to think about.
Yeah. Well, and it's,
everything's at our fingertips. You know what I mean? Like you can have any vegetable any time of the year. It's pretty amazing.
It's pretty amazing. And I remember some of my favorite meals, like chicken and rice, like the most just simple, super simple, green beans with potatoes, like simple food, but it's the best.
Yeah. My grandma was big into black-eyed peas, and she grew her own peas and grew her own peanuts, also goober peas. And so she would roast them, but then black-eyed peas were always a big thing for us too, But again, it's cheap, easy to grow, and it grows a lot of it, so
right.
It's good.
Yeah, really good.
And it goes really, really good with smoked hog.
Big time. We're big pig people in the South. When did you leave Oklahoma City?
Whenever I was 27.
Okay.
So 20 years ago.
And refresh my memory. Did Vegas come before Portland, or Portland? Which came first?
Portland first.
Okay.
So I moved from Oklahoma City to Portland to go to culinary school, and after culinary school, I hung out in Portland for, I don't know, 2 years maybe. after I graduated, and then I moved to Las Vegas, and or no, I'm sorry, I moved to Las Vegas. Sorry, it's my memory is not as good as it
I
used
get
to
it.
be. But yeah, I moved to Las Vegas from Portland and lived there for a couple of years, I think, 2 years, and then moved to Breckenridge, Colorado,
Mm.
and was a chef there. I worked at the Two Hot Tamales or the Border Grill in Vegas, and then I worked for another place called Ventano's, which was like a chef named Arnaud Brion, and he was like the executive sous chef of the Rainbow Room at one point, and used to serve like Frank Sinatra and stuff. So he was like,
Dang.
it was really weird. He was a really like he was true French. Like like it was hard to understand him whenever he spoke, but he cooked Italian food and knocked it out of the park. It was pretty interesting.
Anytime I hear someone with a super thick French accent, I think of Talladega Nights, where it's like, it sounds like you've got
Yeah,
peanut butter in your mouth.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's easy to make fun of, especially in the this botrous world of cooking.
uh,
Say sheet pan with a fresh
right.
accent. It doesn't sound like pan. You know what I mean?
I'm picking up what you're laying down.
Yeah.
What inspired you to go to culinary school? What was it that you said, yep, this is what I want to do?
Um, I think what really got me was one of my mentor, her name was Sandy Hamilton. She was from Oklahoma City, and she was one of the first cooking jobs that I had. And I was green. I didn't know anything, and I'd watched just like everybody else. Came up on, Julia Childs and
Mm-hmm.
Justin Wilson
Mm-hmm.
and all these old PBS chefs that
Yeah.
were first in the game, and so that's where my inquisitive like side of cooking came out. Like I was just really interested in cooking, and so I started working for her, and she sent me out to kind of stage at her son's restaurant in Nashville, and which was Barbara Mandrell's restaurant called Magnolia's.
Mm.
And so I went out there and stayed with him for a couple of weeks and really saw what could be done with food, and like, or saw a totally different side that I didn't know, like duck confit, and that was my first introduction to that, and that just lit the fire under me to like do something more. So I got back to Oklahoma from doing that, and my buddy, actually one of my oldest friends, Robert Johnson, I've known Robert, and he was uh, he was saying, he was like, I think I'm going to move to Portland. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'm going to come with you. I'm going to go to culinary school up there. And so I sold off basically everything that I had and signed up, and we moved to Portland. And yeah, I sold my car, so I was bussing it for the first 3 years that I was there, and like, it was a really cool experience coming from Oklahoma to Portland, which is a totally different vibe and totally different scene, and like it just really it changed my life really.
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
it made me not scared to like go for it and pursue my life instead of being kind of held down by Oklahoma standards, and like the expectant the attitude of, as soon as you get out of high school, you get married and
Mm-hmm.
you go to church and you have 12 kids, and I'm just like, I'm not that's not for me, man. I have a hard enough time taking care of myself. I don't need that responsibility.
And Bugsy.
I've
I mean, I'm surprised Bugsy's
Hey,
still alive. No, I'm
well,
just kidding.
but that I say that to Stephanie every day, that we high five each other almost on a daily basis. Like, hey man, we're doing good. We kept Bugsy alive for 5 years now. We're knocking it out of the park.
Yeah, no, I
Mhm.
get that. I was going to say, that's quite the leap for, I mean, you're what, like 18, 19, 20 when you take that leap?
No, no, I waited. So I didn't move until I was 26.
Oh, okay. Okay. Still.
Yeah, I had no. It was just like we, like I said, growing up there it was restricted. It's a very religious state and very like set in its ways, which, it has its place, I guess. It works for people, but like I was always on the outskirts of, you know, the norm, I guess. I was always a weird kid.
Yeah.
And I just, me and my friends had always just talked about moving away. And so once we got the opportunity, we just did it. We just, like I said, I literally sold everything. I had a bag of clothes and, deodorant and a toothbrush, and we moved to Portland. It was fun.
Would you say you fit in to Portland pretty easily? Or, I mean, was this like when you got there where you're like, okay, this is my people?
Yeah. The first night, the first night that we got there, um, while before we had moved, my buddy had lived in Portland for a while. And whenever we had moved up there, he was living in Seattle. But he hooked us up with some people. He was like, "Hey, as soon as you guys get there, this guy wants to meet you guys. He'll show you around. He knows, the restaurant industry. He knows all this stuff. So get in touch with him." Well, the first night that we were there, we literally unload the car, call this guy, and he's like, "Hey, I'm having a house party. You should come over." And we were like, "Okay." We've been on the road for 18
Right.
hours, and like we were still awake, and so we went out there. And so in Oregon, your alcohol percentage of beer is a lot higher than it is in Oklahoma. In Oklahoma, it's 3.2. Well, and it's Coors Light and Milwaukee's Best in
Uh-huh.
Oklahoma, so you could drink a 12 pack to your face and not feel it. Well, we come here the first night that we're here, and we come out, and he's got a kegerator, which was a totally new concept to me. I was blown away by that instantly. But he had a keg of Deschutes Jubal Ale,
Oh man.
yeah, and he's like, "You're gonna love this, man. Just come on. This is because then Deschutes was like a big
Yeah.
microbrewery and all this stuff. I got so faded that night and ended up like puking on his zucchinis in his garden. Like the first night that we're in Portland, and I'm supposed to be making this impression of like meeting these,
Sure.
Portlandites, and I end up Ralphing all over their garden boxes out back of their house because I can't hold my liquor because I'm, you know. But
That's great.
we became
Welcome to
good friends though.
Oregon.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
But after culinary school, you work in a good amount of restaurants, right? From Portland to
Oh yeah.
Vegas to Colorado. I mean, you have a good resume of restaurants that you're working in.
Yeah, I think I do. Like I, whenever I finally got um, out of culinary school, I really was like, all right, it was a big thing for me to leave Oklahoma in the first place and pursue something like to go to school was a big thing for, nobody in my immediate family went to any kind of, college or VOTEC or any of that, state college, whatever. And so, for me to move away and actually go to culinary school was big. So once I got out, I was just like, all right, it's on. I'm gonna apply to every restaurant that I can and see what lands, And um, I started working at the Veritable Quandary and worked there, and then moved to Las Vegas. And from in Vegas, that's where I hooked up at the Too Hot Tamales. They like started Food Network basically, and they own the
Is
Border Grill.
is that the two females?
Yeah, Nancy and Mary.
Yes.
Yes. And they go down to Mexico all the time, and they learn all these recipes and they bring it up. It was a really fascinating place to work because we were we were in the Mandalay Bay on the beach. So we had like a taco shop on the bottom and then a sit down restaurant on top, and everything was scratch done. Like they had a room that was specifically two ladies making tortillas. Like it was eye opening to me. It was amazing. It was really, really cool. And just to see that level of production and still maintain that like from scratch mentality, instead of using, you know, pre-done stuff. You know what I mean? If that makes any kind of sense. It was really cool to see. So, coming out of that, I got the opportunity to be the chef at a place called Sky Blue in Las Vegas. I had met the owner of that while I was living in Vegas, and she had moved to Colorado to Breckenridge and had opened up this little breakfast lunch spot. And
Nice.
her chef backed out, so I left. But then, it was. I tried to learn as much as I could. That was it. I would work at a place except for the Veritable Quandary. That's still my home. Excuse me, home away from home. It's very the Veritable Quandary shut down, but they whole staff basically has opened up a new restaurant called The Q, and they're still doing the classics and
That's
doing
amazing.
it right. But yeah, it's a really cool place to work.
Well, getting back to the scratch, everything from scratch, that's kind of being from the South. I know you saw that probably in mom's kitchen, grandma's kitchen. I know I for sure saw that in my grandma's kitchen. Nothing came
Yeah.
out of a can or a box. I mean, everything
Oh,
was scratched up.
yeah. Everything was. Yep.
Yeah.
But then, coming back into my immediate family, my mom didn't didn't cook like that. She didn't pick up all those techniques
Yeah.
per se. That wasn't her thing. When she was a kid,
Well,
so.
she was a single mom, right? For a while?
No, well, yes. After my dad passed whenever I was 16,
Right.
and so yeah, so she it was, my dad was always kind of a fly by the seat of your pants type of dude anyways, you know what I mean? He there was a stint where he was he was into he did he what his profession is that he was a salesman,
Hmm.
but he sold specifically TVs and VCRs and all the old technology from back in the day. That was the thing. So he opened up his own shop, and it eventually then the 80s hit and the recession happened, and he had to go bankrupt. But then after that, he just kind of he sold boats for a while. He played nine ball to keep us alive for a little bit, or help support us. He was a great pool shark, but he worked at a bar called the Lamplighter for a little bit. That was his hangout, and he hustled pool there for a while.
Yes.
My mom literally worked at the same job. She was the pillar of the family. She kept everything in a straight
Hmm.
line. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? If it wasn't for mom, we would have been gypsies
She
of
was the
some sort.
CEO. The CEO.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
She really kept things in line.
so getting back to some of these restaurants that you've worked in, and you don't have to name names, but is there a worst kitchen that you've worked in? Is there a best kitchen?
Oh, there was yeah. I've seen I've seen things. Um,
Tell me
I've
a bad kitchen. What was paint a picture of a really bad kitchen where you were like, this is a cluster.
there was one. I won't. I'm not naming a name.
Don't do it.
You wouldn't know it anyways. It's in Vegas, but I worked there for. It was whenever I first got there, and whenever I think it's really you can kind of see it in my cooking now. I use a lot of chilies, and I use a lot of kind of Southwest flavor, along with that kind of Southern cooking. I like to kind of fuse the two a little bit sometimes. And so I really wanted to focus on that, right out of culinary school. That's what I want. I wanted to move to New Mexico and become a chili head basically, and just cook with chilies and be the next Bobby Flay. That was this is before Bobby Flay even happened, and I was
Right.
just like, that's what I want to be. Um, but I ended up whenever I first moved to Vegas, I worked at this place for literally it was 2 days, and I was just like, I cannot work here. It was disturbing. I it was bad. It just um, really improper food handling and no sanitation per se. it was weird. And so I just ended up, I went up to the guy that was running the place. And I was like, listen, man, this is not what I was thinking it was going to be. And this just isn't for me. So I quit. And so I left there. And, and so, yeah, it was, I just literally could not serve food from the place because I was afraid that I was going to make somebody sick. So,
Oh, dude.
yeah, and they eventually got shut down. Like
Wow.
2 months later, they got knocked for just rats and
Ah.
cockroaches and stuff. It was bad. It was bad, man. Like it was. I have no idea how they actually survived up until that point.
Is that one of the biggest fears of being a chef, is that you're going to make someone sick, or is there another big
Yeah,
fear?
yeah. I think that like we have a real responsibility as cooks. You know what I mean? To like really, people are entrusting us. It's real. It kind of sounds gross, but it rings true. People are entrusting us to put stuff into their mouth and to like them to swallow it and nourish themselves. You know what I mean? Like I hate to. It sounds offhanded, but it's not like,
true.
but
That's
like
it.
legitimately, it's true. It's a very intimate thing that people are allowing us to do. And the last thing that I want to do is make somebody sick because of, some stupid mistake that I made, and like, it's completely avoidable. You just be clean, just wipe your shit down, like just do it, just wipe, just clean, and so like, it's easy to do, but, it's can be, the restaurant industry is taxing, and so like, if you're not properly staffed, that stuff gets swept under the rug, literally, and, we've been really fortunate, no matter what, it's going to be clean in my kitchen,
Yeah.
and the food is, I don't stock, I have a really kind of small space. So, I don't stock a lot of food. You know what I mean? Like I order for what I need. I change my menu all the time. I like to keep people guessing what we're doing, and it makes it more interactive. I feel like if we garner a lot of social media hits just by people checking in to see what we're doing this week.
Yeah.
Which is that's huge, especially in today's society. You have to have that under wraps, or under control, because our society is very vocal these days about about my industry, or about the restaurant industry as a whole.
Yeah.
And you really, there's a good and bad side to that. I want, if somebody's having a bad experience in my spot, I want to be able to correct that while you're there. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like if you tell me, hey man, this isn't the way that I wanted it, or this isn't what I was thinking, we're going to do whatever it takes to make you happy before you leave our doors. If you tell me everything is great, and then you go home and write a 12-page essay on how you just had the worst meal of your life at my establishment,
Yeah.
I can't fix that. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to respond to any of that on on a Yelp or Google review. I don't.
100%.
That's
Well, you can't fix
because
it at that
I
point.
think you can't, and you're just opening yourselves up to be trolled by every other troll in your county to get free
Yeah.
stuff from you. You know what I mean? Like, oh, come back in, we'll take care of you. No, tell me whenever you're here and I'll fix it for you now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's what I want. If the plates are coming back empty, you ate it. Like I don't know what I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, and trust
So,
me, I know about the trolls, but I would like to hear Stephanie
oh,
from
look,
now
Rona,
on. Oh,
not to interrupt you, but look, there's my Bruce. You're talking about Bruce Campbell. There's my Bruce Campbell cut.
yeah. Hi, Bruce Campbell. I really wish Bruce
Yeah.
Campbell would do episode 100 of Off Script. Wouldn't that be great?
I'm still waiting to meet Bruce Campbell. I've been in the same room. He was eating. I didn't want to mess with him, but like, I got to shake that guy's hand at some point.
He was eating in a restaurant you were eating in locally?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
He and I
Yeah.
use the same dry cleaners.
Oh, nice.
And you know how I
That's a
know
little bit
that?
stocky.
Well, okay,
That's a
wait, wait,
little
wait,
stocky, Trish.
wait, wait,
That's
wait.
a little bit stocky.
So I go in to drop off some stuff, and I see this like fantastic 100% blue sequined blazer.
Oh,
And I was
yeah.
like, that's awesome. The
Of
owner goes, it's Bruce Campbell's.
course.
And I was like, wait a second, why aren't our pictures up on the wall in here?
Yeah, yeah.
But getting back to, I would like
Yeah.
Stephanie now, from now on, when she hands you a to-go box of food or here's your food at your table, I want her to say, please enjoy putting this in your mouth and swallowing it.
Hey, that's, I again, it's one of those things. I don't know how else to say that.
But you're so right, Braden. And of all, like, I just feel like cleanliness and running a good, smooth kitchen, isn't that like culinary school 101? I mean, that's just
You would think.
okay.
It's
Okay.
it can be, again, like I said, it can be very, you get overwhelmed in this industry, especially if you're busy. Like
Mm-hmm.
things, we're a prime example of that. Whenever we hit the ground running, our opening day we did 165 people. And that we had never cooked one plate of food coming out of the kitchen.
Dude.
And so it was just like, it was insane. It was
Mm-hmm.
nuts. Because I wanted to kind of do it again, kind of guerrilla style, where I just like showed myself turning the on open sign, and then I was just going to open up, kind of give it a test run,
No.
and all like within an hour of people catching wind that we were open, it had been shared like 50 times, and like it was nuts. We had a line out the door,
Right.
so it was
That
it was great.
the chicken Sammy that you made for me last Friday has more
Yeah, yeah.
likes on Instagram. I mean, it's
It's crazy.
crazy.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, we are very, very blessed to have such just a great community support. It was insane. Whenever we were building this restaurant out, we literally had, I mean, one of our main investors is an old customer. That's
mm,
that's how, like, it just makes me and Stephanie feel very, very gl- it makes it feel worthwhile. You know
mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like we have done something in a community that um, people like, and people, you know, this is a part of people's lives now, and which is, that's huge for me, man. Like to have that same person come in sometimes twice a weekend whenever we're up and running. Like they'll literally come in and have two dishes one day and two dishes the next day, and like it's just humbling, it's
Mm-hmm.
really cool. And um, we that was the whole point of what we're doing here, like whenever we first opened up, to get off the ground, we had probably 20 people come and like paint and clean walls, and like it's really cool. And
Yeah.
we, since all of this stuff has happened and the pandemic hit, and um, the community outreach, everybody knows that we've only been open for 4 months, so it was just like, we me and Stephanie didn't know what was going to be happening, and this is our dream. We put everything into doing this, and it was almost right at a year of just like blood, sweat, and tears to get this damn place open,
Mm-hmm.
and then it happens, and we were like a rocket ship, we were just like, everybody was like behind us, and we're doing great. And then, then it happened, and I have mixed feelings about the whole thing, but like at the same time, I'm glad that we were closed for a little bit. Like like again, it goes back to what I was saying before about, food handling and making somebody sick. The last thing that I want to do is be the reason why
Mm-hmm.
somebody gets a crazy virus that I have no control over because they were sitting in a space that I own,
Mm-hmm.
and then they give that to their grandparents or something, and somebody died. Like I don't want that. That's too
Yeah.
heavy for me, man. Like that's not why we are that's not why we did this, like we have to play everything smart, and like keep the community is number one, and our employees are the first things on our mind whenever it comes to any of this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, our livelihood, it means nothing if we are responsible for somebody getting sick.
Yeah, I've had
You
so
know
many
what?
conversations about this. We'll have a little quick Rona vent right now, and it's
Yeah,
not.
sorry.
No, it's
Kind
perfect actually. It's one of those things where I'm hearing a lot of I refuse to live in fear. I'm going to go about my daily life, and I just, for me, that's not the point. The point is I'm not living in fear, but I
of,
certainly don't want to be carrying
I
around a deadly virus that I could give to someone else who
yeah,
will not
yeah,
survive it.
yeah, yeah. And you show no symptoms of it. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
that's the reality of it. And so, like, for I it, having this situation happen at this time in where we're at, we have to, like, police people that come into our space. I that's not what I want to do. You know what I mean? And it's a necessity, though. That's the thing, to help slow what is happening in our society. But I think that is, me and Stephanie were talking about this the other day. I think that is, we have a social responsibility, and it's not just us and our plight. It's everybody. It's
Right.
the people that come in here. It's our employees. It's everybody. And people are losing sight of that. And the people that don't, and I'm gonna kind of go off on a tangent here, that don't think that it's real, and are just throwing caution to the wind. To me, that's not socially responsible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, believe that, but don't try to force that on me. If I get it, like, I have asthma, and I have, high blood pressure, and I have all the things that they're telling me. If I get it, I could possibly die from it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I don't want that. I don't want.
No.
I don't. I'm not trying to. I don't. I'm not trying to mess around with that. You know what I mean? So, like, we, whenever it happened, we shuttered for 3 weeks. We just closed down. I was like, I don't want to. I'm nervous. I don't know what's
Mm-hmm.
going on. And now, coming out of it, we got to take baby steps. We're doing to goes, but, like, there's a lot of restrictions that are being placed on restaurants, and we're like, just to go, oh, we're open, and let's hope that nobody gets the Rona while we're serving
Yeah.
you an omelet. You know what I mean? Like, we gotta play it smart, and we're not prepared to open yet. We don't have my spaces. Yeah, yeah, and it's just that I think that, sorry,
Is that
it's
Steph?
just that, like, yeah, she
Hi, Steph.
um, she says hi. um, I I think that, like, it's an individual basis. Whatever people want to do, that's what they're gonna do, man. We
Agree.
live in America. You're free to do whatever. But if I choose to do something different, that doesn't mean that I'm wrong or you're right, or
Mm-hmm.
you're wrong and I'm right.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, we're just trying to get through this the best way that we can and keep our heads above water. The loans and stuff that came out to help protect businesses, they don't it's a really tough sell for restaurants. Like,
Mm-hmm.
restaurants are, this loan is not made for restaurants. And so, we're in a really crucial time as an industry. Like, legitimately, I think here in the next couple of months, we're going to see a lot of restaurants shuttering for
Yeah.
for good.
For
You
good.
know, yeah, and that's what's happening, is that we as a nation are realizing that our industry employs a huge population of people, a
Mm-hmm.
huge population, and now it is, I don't want to think this way, but, like, economic collapse is, we're on the brink of it. You know what I mean? And, like, we have to be smart about what we're doing and not put ourselves in further debt. And that's what a lot of this help that's coming out is
Mm-hmm.
is doing.
Do
Is
you,
just,
looking
go ahead.
back and taking that 3 week break and now doing baby steps, I mean, do you think that was the best decision? Do you regret any of that?
No, I
Good.
don't regret closing for those 3 weeks at all. Um, Again, from a business side, it just didn't make sense. Nobody was coming out. Everybody was, and for me to stay open and pay people to be here in the hopes that somebody comes is, again, I'm new, so like it's more cost effective for me to be shuttered than it is to have product coming in that's going to waste. Like that's the thing about the food industry is that our products are perishable. These aren't candles that we have on a shelf. This is something that if I don't sell it, that's money wasted to me, and so like we have to play it smart. And I think closing those 3 weeks was probably one of the smarter things that we've done, so.
I will say we're very fortunate in Southern Oregon. People here are very big on supporting local, not just restaurants,
totally.
but local restaurants, local businesses. And so I'm really hoping that that's going to just keep us chugging along and moving forward.
You know what, honestly, like just being open on the weekends and doing to-goes, we've had such a response that I'm selling out. Excuse me, I'm selling out. I have people like we had a lady buy $1,000 worth of gift certificates to give to the nurses. We had our insurance company put us up, and we got a grant from Allstate for $500 because we're a new business and they wanted, and our insurance agent wrote a letter. Yeah, Jay Christensen wrote a letter to Allstate and said, "Hey, these guys are new. They are." I'm sorry, what was it? Washington Mutual. Excuse me. I'm sorry, Washington Mutual. And he wrote, and like that's the kind of like he wrote an essay for us to get a $500 grant from,
Dude.
And it's just it's gonna make me cry, but like it's heartwarming.
Yeah,
it really is, man. Like we're so lucky to be in the space that we're at.
That love, that support, that just keeps you and Steph going, okay, well, yeah, let's keep going. Get back in the kitchen. Let's do it.
Yeah, what we're doing is right, and people are behind us, no matter what the decision is. Like we had all weekend, this last weekend, they're like, well, when are you guys going to open? And we're like, we're not sure, we got, and they're like, well, a lot of people were like, we really respect that. And we really stand behind you. And, we'll order from you, to-goes until you open back up.
Same.
And so, yeah, and it's just, that's a cool feeling, like we have the support. That's great.
You guys really do. I mean, that gives me goosebumps, Braden. That's so awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
And then as far as
time to get on here, I'll cry, by the way. Like, look what's happening right now.
Are you crying?
I almost did.
You
almost got it out of.
Dude, I'm getting really good at this. If I'm starting to make people cry.
That's good.
That's
good.
Yeah. Well, I will say we can end the Rona event, but I'm really glad you guys have taken the steps that you have taken, and I can speak for the community. I mean, it's just, you guys post the menu on social media, and then it's like we're all texting like a bunch of groupies. We're like, oh my God, did you see what's on Over Easy's menu? So it's great. I mean, I'm just really thankful that you guys are still here. I want you to.
Hey man, we're going for it.
Yeah.
We're determined. Got the right backing, and we'll be here.
Yeah. So I want to get back to the kitchens that you've worked in. I asked Chef Tim Keller this question. Was there ever a moment where something really awful happened in the kitchen, a faux pas, if you will, and you were just like, oh crap? Like,
so I have 3 stories that they're kind of, but they have always like stuck with me.
Okay.
And it was so I like to like extracurricular activities. After I'm done working at night, we would bar hop and get drunk and go sing karaoke and just do dumb stuff after midnight. So we had I totally lost my train of thought. Oh, we had gone out one night, and I was working the brunch shift at a restaurant, and my sous chef and I had gone out the night before,
Okay.
And for the brunch shift, you would have to be there, by 5:30 in the morning or whatever. And so I ended up at home at 1 and got 3 hours of sleep and woke up. It's still half drunk and went to work. And whenever I get to work, my sous chef, the guy that I had gone out with, he was already there. He had actually gone back to the restaurant after we left the bar, and he went straight from the bar back to the restaurant and started prepping.
Oh man.
And so I walk in, and he is in the prep sink, taking a bath, because he was so drunk and decided that he was he would wake up if he was to have a shower or whatever. And I walk in, and he's literally got a bubble bath, and he's got like this little head thing on, and he's just like, his feet are out of the. It was amazing. So that that was one where I was just like,
Okay.
wow,
Prep sink bath.
Yes, that was pretty amazing. Then I also had the same sous chef. We were working a brunch shift, and he he worked the saute line, which is right next to me, and I worked like the griddle and the grill and like the little pantry area behind me, right? And so in the middle of service, I had to cook more bacon. And as we're cooking bacon, I went to pull the tray out from the oven. And so the stovetop is here, and then the oven's down below. And I reach down below to pull the tray out. Well, it gets hung in the oven somehow. It's like a little bit cockeyed. So I like kind of yank it. And whenever I yanked it, my hand slipped off and the pan tilted down, and it poured hot bacon grease into his like Birkenstock that he was wearing. And he had to go to the hospital, and he had like, if this is the top of his foot,
Yeah.
he had a blister on it that was like this, that whenever he moved it, it would like jiggle. Like, it was the most disturbing thing that yeah.
Bacon grease is bad.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. And then I saw a guy trip on the mat, and his hand slipped into the fryer for like 2 seconds and like burnt like his fingertip. So that was the other one that I was just like, okay,
Dude,
that's
kitchen's a dangerous place.
It's very dangerous. You had like, so everybody that's in the industry knows, if you're behind somebody, you always say behind. That is like, if you listen to it in the kitchen, everybody says behind, and so I'll be at like the grocery store or something, and it's just so ingrained in me. I'm walking behind somebody, I'm like behind, and they're like, they'll jump, and they're like, what is this guy saying? Like, I'm sorry, it's.
What about my behind?
Yeah, exactly. The kitchen, the restaurant industry it's a crazy industry, and it's so much fun, and just like, but it's hard, and it is a really hard lifestyle, and it's not for everybody. You have to be a little bit.
Yeah. Have you ever had a major burn or like sliced off a little bit of a finger?
Oh yeah. I mean, whenever I first started in the profession, I had an oven that I worked at, and my whole arm on my right side, like that was the one that I would go to grab pans out of the oven with that were hot or whatever, and I had burn marks all up and down my arm. Like, it looked like, I'm not making fun of it, but it looked like I was a cutter. And like, I just had burns on burns on burns on burns.
Yeah.
And like, you can't really see them now because they're all kind of tattooed over, but there's still some scarring from it. But I had duck confit explode on me one time and splash on my face, and that was pretty nuts.
Dang, war wounds.
Yeah.
Got those war wounds.
Yeah.
Well, Braden Hitt, we're going to wrap up just a little bit, but to kind of end this, to put the bow on this beautiful package that we've just created, tell me the Benicio del Toro story again.
So, again, whenever I was working at the Veritable Quandary, I worked at the Veritable Quandary for over 10 years off and on. Like, I would quit and come back and quit and come back and like move away and come back.
It
Like
was
I
a
just
love
didn't.
affair. You had a love affair with that
It
place.
was they were my family.
Yeah.
Like legitimately, like I could still I could go there today and get a job and find a couch to sleep on because it's the same people working there. Like they are a really tight knit family. So um, we where the veritable quandary was right off of the Hawthorne Bridge in Portland. And so right as you came off the Hawthorne Bridge, there was the veritable quandary. It was this beautiful little patio, and like at night, it was kind of like it was down by the hotel, so it was kind of a business space. You know, like that's where business people came to eat and drink and hit on each other, and it was a weird spot. But the what was the movie was called The Hunted,
Okay.
and it had Benicio del Toro, Tommy Lee Jones, and then a female actress. I want to say it was like I can't remember. Anywho, um, one they were filming on the Hawthorne Bridge,
Okay.
and so they would and there's rumors like they were coming into the restaurant at night to eat and have drinks after they got done filming. And so like the whole cast would come over and all this would happen. Well, I had been gone for a week while they were doing this, and then whenever I got back, I had to work like 5 days in a row or 6 days in a row. And so I was like on my fourth day and I was just over it. And that place, we just got creamed every night. Like
Huh.
it was every night we were just hammer fisted all night long. And so after of course, as soon as we get done, um, I would go sit at the bar and have a drink and, start writing my prep list. That was the nightly thing, right? And so I sit down at the bar and I'm not paying attention. Like half the people that were in there, they would never talk. I'm some scummy kid sitting at the bar, having a drink after I get off of work. I smell like French fries and, it's not a
Yeah.
great thing. Yeah. And they're in business suits and, they're doing their thing. And so I sit down at the end of the bar, and the bartender, of course, was our friend. His name was Kyle, and he knows what we every night we got off. We had the same thing. So I'm sitting there. I sit down. I have the menu in my hand, and all of a sudden, a beer and a shot comes up and right in front of me, and I was like, "Oh, thanks, Kyle." And I wasn't paying attention, and Kyle was asking me how my day was, and I was like, "Oh, it's good. I'm ready to get out of here. I've got things, whatever."
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there writing my prep list for the next day, and this guy sitting next to me was like, "You must know people here." I was like, "Oh yeah, and I looked over and he's like got a hamburger or something in front of me. I was like, "Yeah." I said, "I just got off work. I'm a cook here." I was like, "I probably cooked your hamburger there." And he was like, "Oh, that's great. Let me buy you some. What are you drinking?" I was like, "I'm drinking whiskey." And he called Kyle over and he got me top shelf whiskey. And I still have not even like looked at this guy, and I'm just
Right.
like, "Hey, I'm like, thanks, guy. I appreciate it." And I'm writing stuff down, and I sit back and I look up, and one of the waitresses is like looking at me, and she's like, and I'm like, what? Like, what are you doing? Like, and I'm like looking behind me, and there's nothing happening. And she was like, and she's like, mouthing
R-
Benicio del Toro. I'm like, I don't, and I'm like yelling at her, I don't know what you're saying. Say it loud, use your words, and like, and the guy next to me, he started laughing, and he was like, and I was like, I can't see what she's saying. I think, and he goes, I think she was saying my name. I was like, what? And I like looked, and I was like, huh, you're Benicio del Toro. And he was like, yes, I am. I was like, oh man, like I love your movies, and like I'm sorry, I'm just got off work, and we sat there and had like 3 or 4 whiskeys together, and we just kind of, hey, so what are you doing in town? I was just like highballing it. I was like, yeah, so I work here. I'm making $10 an hour flipping burgers in the back, but like I owned the place by the time I was done talking.
Totally.
Yeah, yeah. But he bought me whiskey for, 2 or 3 shots. I was like, all
Nice
right,
dude.
man, you're all right. Yeah, he was really awesome.
Nice. I just looked that movie up. That was in 2003. Does that sound right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
The Hunted. Yep.
That's awesome.
It's a pretty good movie. Yeah.
Well, you fed him. You made his belly happy while he was working on that movie.
Yeah, and he fed me after I got off work too. So that was I lived off whiskey and cigarettes back then, so I was in hog heaven.
That's perfect. Well, Braden Hitt, thank you so much. This was so much fun. And for all the people who absolutely love Over Easy, the best thing to do to follow you guys and make sure they're keeping up with what you guys are doing is social media, right? Instagram, Facebook. That's
the best way. Sorry, I have. We have a website, it's social media. It's Over Easy Southern Oregon, and then if in any of the search bars for social media, if you just put Over Easy Southern Oregon, will come up. We've changed our logo to kind of the Jetsons era, kind of a mid-century modern look thing going on. So it'll say Over Easy. We're there, and right now we're calling a meeting tomorrow with our staff, and we're gonna get their input and see how comfortable they are and see what they want to do, and kind of go from there on what our next move is as a restaurant and as a, we've got some plans. We have already put in for outdoor seating. Yeah, we'll have it come hopefully this next couple of days here. And then we're also thinking about putting in some tables in the tree well. We've got plans in for that. So we're doing everything that we can to not just stay relevant, but just, better our situation and come out of this, in a brighter, more positive feel about, who we are as a restaurant and as individuals too. So,
well, I know the community is very appreciative of that. And also you guys bring buttloads of personality to downtown Medford. So thank
you so much.
Yeah, very thankful. And tell the boss, Steph, that we appreciate her as well.
You go. Love you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Braden. If you are listening to this podcast on Apple's podcast app and you like it, please subscribe, rate, and review. It helps other people find us. We're also on Stitcher, Google Play, and SoundCloud. To watch it, you can go to ktvl.com, click on features, or you can find us on YouTube. One more time, Braden Hitt, the man behind the curtain at Over Easy. Thank you so much, Braden. Love you.
Thank you. Love you too.